See any reason we should go.
We're live. We're live.
Now, McGolfin actually didn't turn on her phone. He'll get to this.
Good morning. It's 10:12 on the morning of September 7th. I'm Michael Adams. I'm the Secretary of State and Chair of the State Board of Elections. We're convening a special meeting to, among other things, review, discuss, and approve plans presented by our counties for the general election. I'd like to take the roll if I could. I'll just go in the order I see you all on the screen. Member Lewis.
Yes, good morning. James Lewis, retired county clerk, Leslie County.
Member Skolnick.
Good morning, Corey Skolnick, member Jefferson County.
Member Johnson.
Jerry Johnson, member Franklin County.
Member Brangers.
Good morning, Deanna Brangers, member Jefferson County.
Member Whitehouse.
Good morning. This is Sherry Whitehouse, member Bullitt County.
Member Chandler.
Ben Chandler, good morning to everybody. I'm the member from Woodford County.
You look cool in those shades, Member Chandler.
Thank you. I ought to be out of my car and into the house very shortly.
So I think we're missing two, but we do have a quorum, so we're going to proceed. So the first action item, and the reason that we're meeting twice prior to our next scheduled meeting is to make sure that we can timely review and approve the county plans that have been presented by our county boards of elections around the state. Our state law says that all the precincts are opened unless the county presents us a different plan and we, the board, approve that plan. And so we have received plans from, I'm going to use a round number, what at this point, 80-ish, 90-ish counties, is that right?
No, I believe we've received 110, right,
110.
Richard?
Yes, 110.
I think the board staff have received 110, so I shouldn't use the word we. They have, and they provided those to us. I think the first transfer we got was about 76 or 80, and we've approved in our office those to bring up today. What I'm going to do is this. We agreed at the last meeting to hold the ones that we had gotten and give the members time to review those. I hope we've been able to do that. We've been able to do that in our office. We're going to vote on those now. The ones that we got after that meeting, we're still playing catch up in our office and going through those. In particular, the 7 counties most seriously impacted by the floods of late July. Those counties, all but 1 or 2, submitted their plans very recently. We're still going through those. We're still in conversations with county clerks in those counties. The governor has asked me to meet with him today to discuss those plans in some detail. And so I would like to have that conversation with the governor before we bring those up. So here are the ones that I'd like for us to pass today. I'm going to very quickly read through them and just give you a little sense, and also the public who are watching, a little sense of what this looks like on the ground for these counties. So in alphabetical order, Adair County, they have proposed 3 consolidated locations and 10 standalone precincts. So that's 13 locations. They have 16 precincts only. So that's a reduction from 16 precincts to 13 locations. That's, I think, a pretty modest adjustment. I recommend that we approve that. Allen County, they're going to have 7 voting centers. A voting center, of course, being a place where anyone in the county can vote regardless of the precinct. Allen County normally has 13 precincts, so they're going to have 7 voting centers. We believe that's going to be adequate. Ballard County normally has 13 precincts. They're moving to 5 consolidated locations. Obviously, that's a bigger reduction than what we saw in the first 2 counties, but we have made calls down there, and we do believe that would be sufficient. I wish Member Langer here today with us to talk about Ballard County. Unfortunately, she's not with us today. Barron County, they normally have 25 precincts. They are proposing 8 voting centers. We believe that is going to be adequate. Bath County normally has 13 precincts. They are doing, bear with me as I look across this matrix, 5 locations, 5 consolidated locations. I do believe that would be sufficient for Bath County. Bell County has 30 precincts. They are opening all 30 precincts. So I think you can all agree that's sufficient. Boone County has 64 precincts. They are doing 45 standalone precincts and 9 consolidated locations. So that's 54 out of 64. That's pretty darn good. Bourbon County has 16 precincts. They are offering 4 vote centers. That is a reduction, obviously, but we have made inquiries into Bourbon County. We believe that'll be adequate. Wood County has 48 precincts. They are doing 8 voting centers. Here too, that is a big reduction, but we have confirmed on the ground that should be adequate. Boyle County has 25 precincts. They are doing 6 voting centers. We believe that's adequate. Callaway County has 23 precincts. They are doing 6 vote centers. Same deal there. Campbell County has 67 precincts. They are doing 23 consolidated locations and 11 standalone precincts. So that's 34 out of 67. We think that would be adequate. Carlisle County has only 6 precincts and they're doing 3 vote centers. That I think should be fine. Carter County has 28 precincts. They're opening all 28 of their precincts. Christian County has 41 precincts. They are doing 16 vote centers. We believe that is adequate. Clark County has 26 precincts. They are doing 12 standalone precincts, 6 consolidated precincts, and 1 vote center. So that's 19 of 26.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Are we going to walk, are you going to recite each of the counties individually, or are we going to identify counties that are not submitting a plan that we feel is sufficient?
Well, I plan to go through this and read them all just for the benefit of the public. If we're tight for time, then I'll jump to the end and just tell you the ones that we had some concerns about and we're making some inquiries on still.
I mean, it's fine. I've got an hour, and so if we can get done, I'm out of town, but I'm trying to figure out exactly. I mean, for me, the question becomes, I mean, these are posted on the website, I think. Is that correct, Richard?
They will be once you approve or.
Okay. And so I'm not trying to stop any conversation. I'm just trying to say is it'd be helpful if we move to those that there are questions with. But if you believe as chair that we need to read through each one of them, that's fine with me. So
how about I meet you in the middle? Let me just read the counties. I just want everyone to have clarity what they're voting on.
Okay.
I want everyone to be informed and to, unfortunately, the agenda doesn't lay out the counties by name. And so I'll just do that. I'll meet you in the middle and I'll just read the county names that we're recommending approval for. And I appreciate your point. I know we have a lot of other things to do today. So I think I just read Clark. So add to that Clinton, Cumberland, Davis, Estill, Fleming, Franklin, Fulton, Gallatin, Grant, Graves, Grayson, Greenup, Hancock, Harrison, Hart, Henderson, Henry, Jackson, Jefferson, Jessamine, Knox, Laurel, Lawrence, Lewis, Lincoln, Livingston, Logan, Lyon, McGoffin, Marion, Marshall, Mason, McCreary, McLean, Meade, Metcalf, Monroe, Montgomery, Morgan, Muhlenberg, Nelson, Nicholas, Ohio, Owen, Pendleton, Pike, Robertson, Rockcastle, Rowan, Scott, Todd, Trigg, Trimble, Warren, Washington, Webster, and Whitley. A quick comment. So McGoffin County, they are one of the flood counties. They are opening up all their precincts, which is just, I think, remarkable. Although I am meeting with the governor today on those flood counties, I do feel comfortable going ahead and approving McGoffin because they're not having to do any movement or consolidation. I don't think the governor will have any objection to that. The other ones, I would like to hold until I can have that conversation. Here are the ones that have been submitted that I do have some concerns about, and I'd like to have some more conversations with the clerks before we approve. Carroll County, their plan had just one place to vote. Carroll County is not a huge county by population, but they are kind of spread out a little. And I have a concern anytime a county has just one place to vote. What if there's a problem? What if there's an outage? So we have not yet received this, but we've been told by the clerk that they're going to rework the plan and add an additional location. Unfortunately, the Wi-Fi coverage in Carroll County is not ideal. And so really the only places that we can have that technology functional are around downtown Carrollton. So the additional location they are adding is also in Carrollton. There will be 2 locations in Carrollton. I would love to have locations more out in the county, but it's just not as feasible as we would like. So we can't vote on it until they send it to us. But I would like to wait for them to send that amended plan that moves from one location to 2 locations. The specifics. The other ones that we're still working on are Hardin, Oldham, and Woodford. Candidly, I don't have it in front of me the hard numbers of the offerings, but all of these counties, we thought, given that they're larger counties, they had the number of locations you might have seen in one of the smaller counties. We think that they can do better. We're going to work in good faith with them. Everyone we've ever worked with concerns like this have always worked with us in a fair, reasonable way and at locations. And so we're still working on that for Hardin, Oldham, and Woodford. So I'd like to wait and give them a chance to add a location or 2 and then come back to us for final approval. But I do think we're in a position to approve all the county plans, whose counties names I just read off, if that suits everybody. Are there any questions or comments?
Identify for me the counties that you're suggesting we don't take up today.
That would be Carroll pending their amendment of their plan. That would be all the flood impacted counties except for McGoffin. And so I believe that would be Breathitt, Leslie, Letcher, Wolf. What are the others?
Not
Perry,
Pike,
Wolf.
And why could you give me a little detail why you're suggesting we don't deal with those when they have many of those, if not most, have submitted plans?
Well, one is because some of the plans were submitted before the flood, and otherwise it's also because some we just got and we're still doing due diligence on. The same rationale we had a couple of weeks ago, that we just need time to make those calls. Plus, as a courtesy to the governor, I want to have these conversations with him today as well.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
Leslie County submitted their plan, I think, maybe yesterday. They've got all precincts open. Why are they not being approved?
We don't have any on this list that were from the last batch that came out. They came over the weekend. These weekend.
Okay. We just haven't had a chance to see it yet.
Pardon?
I said I haven't seen it yet. Our staff haven't seen it yet.
One thing I'm a little confused on. I recognize that we have a sort of an overlap in terms of responsibility. My understanding was that the board of elections actually reviews, recommends, and then the board as a whole approves or disapproves. So I think our staff has done some rather significant work looks like your staff is doing some work separate from that. So that's a little bit confusing. But under the statute, it's a requirement that the Board of Elections take that action. So I just don't want us getting crossways with two separate streams of work. I also don't want to see us have to come back 3 or 4 times and have special meetings when that's a little hard to do. I don't know when they have to have these plans approved. I don't know what kind of timeline we're operating on, but again, it just help me understand your thinking on that perspective, Mr. Chairman.
Did we get Leslie, and is it all precincts?
Yes, Leslie is all precincts.
Okay.
Right, Richard?
Yes, I believe that's correct.
Yeah.
Well, I'd certainly be willing to add Leslie on that basis.
I will say this real quick. September 20th is the drop dead deadline for having precinct locations assigned. And that I know that vendors are out programming machines right now and ballots. And I think Jason could attest to that. So I know that Harp was already setting machines prior to last week. So, or maybe it was just started last week. So that's something to take into consideration as we delay these.
Well, if you look at the historical record, we actually approved county plans in late September 2 years ago, and the election date was November 3rd. We're still well ahead of schedule. I don't want to delay this either or call multiple meetings unnecessarily, but I think we're in pretty good shape.
Are there some other counties, Mr.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, please.
Are there some other counties on that list that could be approved today?
Candidly, I haven't had a chance to go through dozens and dozens of plans that we got over the weekend. This is the only thing that I have to do in this role, so I just haven't had a chance to go through them all.
If I can ask a question, my machines have been delayed and they're supposed to be set on Friday. I sent a letter to SBE, I guess last week. I apologize for being later. We made no changes based on the primary, and we have more locations than we did even in the 2022 general. So we kept with the same plan, even though we feel will be over adequately staffed and location. So my machines have to be set on Friday. That's the vendor's coming. So we're going to have to move forward with that in anticipation that you all will approve our plan. The vendors are under a time crunch right now. We're getting really close to the portal opening at the end of the month, and machines being set in. The inspection dates are already been advertised in a lot of counties. So I just hope we can move forward really quickly on these.
Well, I have no objection to adding Anderson. Let's do that, because
Well,
we discussed it, Jason, back and forth previously, and we were just waiting to the document. So
Well, Mr. Chairman, I think we ought to at least discuss approving as many counties as we possibly can today. We've added now Leslie and Anderson, and the reason we've added them is that those two counties have people on this call and in this meeting. I think the other counties that may not have people in this meeting also ought to be considered.
Well, are there counties that I think that we can find consensus on, ones that have opened all their precincts and so forth?
Right. I think we ought to at least look at those from that list.
All right. Well, could someone tell me what those are?
Richard, you've looked at these pretty closely. Are there some in that list that would fall into that category?
I'm looking right now. Okay. Ones that we know that have all precincts: Bell, Carter.
Richard, I think we're asking about the ones that we didn't already detail, the ones that just came in after the holiday weekend. While we were not open.
I don't know if I have those separated. I've got the general overall list.
Edmondson.
Yeah,
I think the secretary mentioned a list that he had not yet had the chance to go over himself. And I was thinking maybe we could talk about a handful of those that we could get some agreement on. And I believe that was acceptable to the chairman as well.
okay, let me see here. I do have a way of pulling those out that you didn't get.
Carter, Edmondson, and Elliott, Richard.
Yeah, Edmondson and Elliott were at it, so they have all precincts. Floyd has all precincts open.
It's remarkable.
I think they. I think they had, you know, a little bit, but they had all. the
Hopkins County will have all precincts open plus a vote center.
primary.
I'm sorry, Richard, could you say that again?
Hopkins County will have all precincts open plus a vote center.
Hey, and just to confirm, Floyd got this to us in the last few days, which is to say after the flood. In other words,
Yes, it was.
Very
It
good.
was.
Okay. So add Hopkins, Edmondson.
Richard, if I might be of help to you, I have all of those already listed.
Do you already
Lewis-
have them listed?
Yes, Lewis County is all, Lyon County is all, McGoffin all. You missed Harrison County, it has all according to my list.
Yes, it should have been on the
Marshall County-
previous list.
Marshall County has all, so does McLean, Mercer, Midcalf, Monroe, Morgan,
I'm sorry, could you talk a little slower? I'm writing all these down, I'm sorry.
and
Okay,
Tyler.
Marshall, McLean, Mercer. What else, Member Lewis?
James, I believe he was asking for the ones that were just added.
Oh,
So that's why, yeah, that's why. So I'll go back where I was at. Leslie is just added and it has all. Mercer was just added. They have all.
When was Leslie sent? He's in the last spreadsheet. It wasn't submitted.
We might have gotten Leslie. Did we get what? No, not this Friday.
Because I mean, it's not
It might have
listed.
been on
It's Saturday.
Saturday's spreadsheet.
No, it's not.
So-
Leslie was, she told us on Friday that she was, or they told us that they were on Onzi, told us on Friday they were gonna add all of them. And then they sent the letter. We got it actually yesterday morning,
So it's.
Or-
not.
but it
Well,
is.
It seems to me that we apparently are prepared to agree to accept all of the counties that are proposing to open all precincts. But it would also seem to me that we could find an agreement on counties whose plans in the general were similar to the successful plans that they undertook in the primary.
Well, I would push back a little bit on that note, Chandler. I think the primary turnout will be probably much lower than the general turnout. My view, and had we time to go through this matrix I have, it would be clearer, but I think the best metric is to use the last general election versus the last primary. I don't think we'll have 2020 general election turnout this fall, but I also think we'll have higher than the 19% or so turnout that we had in the primary. So I certainly think that they shouldn't be reducing locations beyond what they had in the primary, but it might be good if they add some too. I'm not saying we should veto a plan that doesn't expand beyond what they had in the primary, but I just don't assume automatically that we'll have consensus that it's going to be adequate depending on the county.
Well, you can be pretty certain, I think, that what they had in 2020 would be adequate in 2022.
Absolutely.
Because the one thing you can be certain of is that there will be a lower turnout this year than there was in 2020.
Yeah, I think it'll be somewhere between the primary turnout from this year and the general turnout from 2020, somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's no way we're going to come close to a presidential.
Right. We were 60% in November 2020. We were 19% in May 2022. My guess will be around 35 to 40 this fall. So yeah, roughly in the middle. So if I understood you correctly, Member Lewis and Richard, Hopkins, and these are kinds that we just got as recently as yesterday or over the holiday weekend. Hopkins, Edmondson, Elliott, Lewis, Lyon, Harrison, Marshall, McLean, Mercer, and Leslie are opening all the precincts. And are those, I'm just double checking against the list I already had read to see if I'm double counting anybody, but I don't think so. We can certainly agree, I think, that we should go ahead and approve those plans, right? Although candidly, they don't have to produce us a plan to approve. They just open the precincts. The statute says they have to get us to approve their plan if they deviate from their precinct-based model that's in the statute, which they're not doing. So we actually don't have to approve that, but I'm certainly happy to do that as a courtesy.
If I can add something, I know Hardin County had 4 centers in 2020. They have submitted their plan and now they have 7. And everything went great in the 2022 primary, and they feel very adequate that they're going to be able to handle any increases because they have added 3 from the 2020 general election.
Well, anecdotally, we got complaints from members of both parties from Barron County that there were long lines. So we're still working with the clerk to see if we can add a location or 2 in Barron County.
Okay, thank you.
How many counties now would that we be voting on today with the additions of what we just added?
Here, I'll count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 4, 5, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 15. 84 by my count.
84?
Yes, sir. And I can read them again if you like.
I'm fine with that.
I just 5 minutes.
I'm concerned about a potential precedent that we set with having 2 sets of staff going over approvals that are required by the board. And I certainly know that you're the chief election officer. Your staff certainly should be involved and communicate. But we've got to figure out a way to not have these dual tracks when we're doing this. I recognize we just came through a holiday. We had a meeting previous that I couldn't attend, and so we decided to put it off till knowing this was after the weekend of the holiday. I'm actually on vacation, and I've reviewed them over the entire weekend. But the responsibility under the law requires that the Board of Elections staff review, and then the board take action. So I just don't want us having 2 separate activities underway, Mr. Chairman. I don't mean this to be disrespectful to your staff. I don't mean that at all. But our board staff has a responsibility for this. And so while I'm willing to go ahead and have one more meeting after this, while your folks go through and see whether they agree with the Board of Elections staff, I do want to caution us about setting that up as a pattern for us to use next year when it's going to be even crazier than now. And so with all the state elections that are going on. So with that, I'll at least make a motion that we approve the 84 counties that have been entered into the record, if that's appropriate at this time.
Is there a second?
I second it.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, thank you all.
Now
Um,
Mr. Chairman, that leaves us with what, 34 or 36 counties left to approve. Is that correct?
That's correct. That's 6 flood counties, Carroll, Hardin, Oldham, and Woodford, and then the counties that we've yet to receive, I believe, plus I think a small number of counties that we received in the last few days that we've not vetted yet.
Well, we've received 110, haven't we, out of the 120?
Yes.
So there are 26 that we have received and are not approving. Are there any of those 26 that can be approved today?
Well, we just approved several from that group.
That's correct, but we've got 26 more, and I was just wondering if there are any of those 26 that could be approved today. And the only reason I ask this, Mr. Chairman, is because we do, we've got these machines that have to be, as Jason said, have to be gotten ready, and there is a little bit of a time crunch in some of these counties, and I'm not sure which counties have a particular time crunch, but according to Jason, Anderson's is Friday. So I don't know what other counties are imminent also.
Well, if there are counties that we know at a glance look great and we can go ahead and vote on them, I'm all for it. But I will note that we did give the counties a deadline that they didn't comply with in terms of getting these to us to review. So it's not like we're the bad guys because we get them over the holiday weekend and can immediately turn them around.
So let me ask that question. That raises the question. So we've got 110. Let's say we agree on all 110 by the time this process is done. What happens to the other 10 if they never submit a plan?
By law, their precincts all have to open.
Okay, what if they don't?
Well, they're subject to litigation for non-compliance with the law. That doesn't mean I'm going to sue them, but the voter could.
Can we quickly look, Richard, at the 26 counties that Ben just mentioned to see if there's some of those that could be added to the list? Not trying to push some of these through. Let me tell you my opinion, and I've expressed it in writing and otherwise, is I never thought that voting centers per se were meant to take the place of precincts in general. So having 5 voting centers versus 25 precincts, I've never viewed that as being the perspective for providing voting centers. Voting centers could be at every precinct if you opened every precinct. So I don't want us to get into the habit of believing that reducing the number of access points in a county is good for the process. Now, there are plenty of cases to where it is adequate. So I'm not trying to rush through people who have not provided enough opportunities for people to have access. That's not my goal, but I do feel like we have a responsibility to approve as many as is reasonable. If we're going to, because we've approved a whole lot up to this point that are far from having all their access points available. So just wanted to state that for the record. I continue to think we need to look for opportunities. I know finding enough election officers and places to hold elections is terrible in some of these counties. It's a really hardship on them. I think we need to look for an opportunity to work together with the clerks and with our legislative delegation to see if we can't get some additional money back to these counties to help pay these election officers enough for them to put their time in and to do what is necessary. I think it's a shame that people put in the hours they do for how little they get paid for it. And so that's my stump speech for today.
Member Johnson, I totally agree. And I offered to vote Senator bill to the legislature before COVID. I think it's a good policy idea, but it was intended to be a both and, not an either or.
Yeah.
Obviously, an either or during COVID, trying to run an election, permitting people to vote in person before there was a vaccine without risking the lives of our poll workers or our voters. Leader Thayer in the Senate has said recently in a committee meeting on the record as a warning to the county clerks and the county boards of elections that if you all abuse this and you over reduce beyond what you need to, we'll take this away from you. And I agree with you and I agree with him that this is supposed to be a crutch. We've got counties, even in the flood zone, they're opening all their precincts. In an ideal world, that should be what we do. We voted on several counties today that consolidated some of their precincts, but still have a pretty healthy array of locations for voters to vote. That should be the model. And so the counties that I'm asking that we hold, that we've held, these are large counties that have maybe 5 or 6 places to vote. If McGoffin can have all their precincts open, I feel like a large urban county, maybe not open all of them, but open enough that people have some options. So we're going to work with folks in good faith. If they can't do it, we get it, but we just understand why and make sure that these locations are fair, that they don't leave anybody out in the county, any demographic or so forth. Richard, did you want to talk about the plans that are the 26?
Well, I'm kind of off kilter because we've got our list and then what we've gone off and then otherwise. I will say that I've sent detailed lists. I mean, I did highlight in the Saturday email the ones, an overview and a kind of a summary of what was added, if there were any decreases, and then all that. So I did send that out. We have Mr. Chairman, we have the list that was received by all the counties, and I think you all have a hard copy of it there. I don't know which ones we've read off now because I've lost track because we've done it so many different times. So I'm a little bit off kilter on that, but we do have a hard copy. Sheila, do you have that there with them?
They do.
Okay. I guess you would be better off to tell them which ones we haven't approved out of that list now.
Okay, I'm looking at my list versus your list. And the first one I see that we didn't discuss already today is Bracken. Can someone address what Bracken apparently just submitted?
Barron County submitted. They'll have 1 early vote center and they'll have 3 vote centers on election day.
And this was no change.
No
from
change, no change.
primary. And my memory isn't serving me very well back to 2020 general. But, you know, quite a few of these 26 had no change. And most of the time in the primary, they actually added voting centers or locations from the general, not all of them. I can't speak to these 26 only, but, you know, Hardin is a good example. They had, from the primary to now, they had more voting centers in November for this election than they did, I believe, in the general 2020.
They had 2 in 2020.
Right. So, I'm sorry, Richard.
I was going to say, just to give you all some information, Barron County has 8 precincts. Their turnout was 4,252 voters in the 2020 election.
I'm agreeable to approving that if you all are. Just proportionally. And it's the same locations that they had, is that right?
Yes, no change.
No change.
Primary.
Well, part of why I like for my office to be involved in this is we're the ones people call when they're upset. So
Well, we
the
get
fact
calls
that,
too.
yeah, well, I think we probably get more and more social media too. But we've never gotten a complaint, to my knowledge, from Barron County. So I think that would be fine if we want to.
Let me, and I think you all are probably looking at it. So just let me just real briefly. We've got it appears on the list that came out on Saturday that the reductions occurred more on the in-person absentee voting over the 3-day period. So Boone County decreased from 3 to 1. Is that one of the counties we approved?
Yes.
Yes.
Davis County decreased from 3 to 1. Was that included?
Yes.
Fayette County had 1. Was that included?
No, we have not done Fayette yet.
Okay, Franklin County added one. Fulton County, looks like they went to one static site instead of rotating. Jackson County decreased from 3 to 2. Jefferson County added 2. Pulaski County reduced Saturday locations from 5 to 4. So it appears that the reductions occurred more on the pre-election day voting. If you look at how many of the Barron, Bourbon, Boyd on that list, how many of that list on election day were actually approved already? Can you tell me that, Richard, off of your list?
Any of them that had any decreases at all?
No, I'm just saying, how many of these on your list, 1 through 21, did we approve in the 84? Barron County, Bourbon County, Boyd County, Callaway, Carter County, et cetera.
I don't know the exact number because we lost track during the,
Okay.
yeah, I'm sorry.
Does anybody know? Do you have that letter in front of you? I mean, it looks like the majority of these actually increased from previously.
There were only a few that decreased from the primary as far as their election day plans. And they documented that, and I sent that documentation out
Yeah.
on those.
Well,
And part of them, one of them was for flooding because they had to change locations and they had to move around. And that was, let's see. Wayne County was because they didn't have poll workers. Was it
So they have
Floyd?
a location in each of their
Yes,
magisterial.
They did.
They're
They did.
covering.
Yeah, they had enough to cover everything. Floyd County, if I remember correct, Floyd County was the one that had to go down because of the flooding. Is that right?
I thought it was all precincts.
No, it wasn't Floyd. It was, I can't remember which
I
county
think
it
it was
was.
Fletcher.
Leslie, you're right. Letcher.
Fletcher, that's it, Fletcher. Another that's not been mentioned that's opening all their precincts on election day is Fayette.
Yeah, they are. Well, they consolidated some locations, but yes, they have a
That's something they've done in the past.
132 sites on election day.
Right, they have 132 sites in Fayette County on election day.
How many precincts do they have?
And that's way better than what they did in the primary.
Oh,
It
yeah.
is, it is. They have been able
Their struggle was with an early voting site. So
to
that was,
Fayette precincts,
It was in the red.
286 precincts. Because they have a few they have consolidated, 2 to 4 precincts in one location.
Say it was in the red on the sheet that you sent out this weekend.
that was to highlight that there was a correction made. They went from, that was with the deal with the early voting where they had initially submitted that they were going to have 10 early voting sites, so they ended up going to Kroger Fields. So that's why why it was highlighted in red. And that was for the primary.
Can someone read off the 26 counties that have been submitted, but because we voted on 84, and I've been trying to make a list here of the ones. I'm just trying to make sure that I'm perfectly clear on what 26 are remaining.
Bracken, Breathitt, Bullitt, Butler, Caldwell, Casey, Crittenden, Fayette, Garrett, Boone, Hickman, LaRue, Lee, Letcher, and that's as far as I've got as I've going back and forth between my two checklists. I'll be done here in just a second. Madison is one. Martin. McCracken. Owsley. Perry. Howell. Pulaski. Shelby. Simpson. Union. Wayne. Let's see, we got that
And
one.
Woodford, it was Woodford, I think. Was
Yes, and pardon me.
And then we still have a few that we haven't received that we didn't mention. That weren't received. So,
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 16. Did I count right?
You did.
I didn't think I did.
Oh, I counted 26.
Okay.
I'm not gonna count.
So do we need to just take these one at a time and discuss what the changes are and determine how we're going to move forward on those?
Well, I think what Member Chandler was suggesting is if there are some that are easy calls, let's go ahead and do those. We did the ones that open all the precincts. It's a
Right.
if there are others that are similar, I think we go ahead and knock those out too.
And I think also, Mr. Secretary, nobody has a problem with the Secretary of State being involved in this, and we understand that you have the office, office of the Secretary of State, and that you take a lot of the calls. But the statutory responsibility lies with the State Board of Elections, and I would submit that we ought to make it a point, as best we can, to try to have as much of this tied up and agreed to before we come into these meetings, so that we can spend our time on those counties that we have difficulties with. And we know there are going to be some of those counties. And that's where most of our discussion ought to be.
I don't disagree with that. I'm happy to have my team work with the board staff at the first instance and try to vet these things at the outset. That's a more efficient way to do it.
Yeah.
Mr. Secretary,
Yes, sir.
I know in all the discussions today, and I'm looking at something that's, I'm not sure everybody's aware of the context of the issue of precincts, standalone precincts, but under the 111 plans I have information from, there's only 1,050 of the 3,695 precincts in the state that are open on their own basis, which is about 29% of our precincts. I'm not sure. I think we need to look quite a bit closer at the issue of getting our precincts back open for the voters of the state, and instead of basically what we've been doing, the vote centers and consolidated locations. I'm not sure the Constitution agrees with the use of these type of voting locations anyway. But that's beyond the point. I think just for the general good of the voting process, we need to get our precincts back open as they've been for since the last Constitutional Convention, 1890, 130 some years. So I'm concerned about the low number of precincts in the state of Kentucky that's going to be open on their own on election day, that the people can go to their community and vote where they've done basically all their life until recently.
Well, part of why I want for us to have time to vet these adequately is to make sure that people do have an opportunity to vote. As I said earlier, I agree with Member Johnson and Senator Thayer that if this is abused, then it should be repealed. I don't want to see it abused. I do think that in the next year, as local governments do their own redistricting, as they're required to do, they should assess their precincts. There really is no logic to the layout of precincts that we have in the state. We've got small counties with a whole bunch. We've got big counties that don't have as many as a small county. Sometimes these things are kind of arbitrarily drawn. I do support precinct-based voting, but I also think that we need to revisit some of these precincts. Not we don't have any authority over it, but the counties should revisit their precinct lines and revise those to accommodate shifts in population.
Well, the county board has that responsibility
Yes.
in itself to draw the precinct lines, and of course, that's by law their responsibility, and our responsibility of state board is to make sure they carry out their responsibilities, in my opinion.
Well, this is a little bit of a double-edged sword, because while I think precincts historically have been important, it's also very convenient for a lot of people to have the option of voting in a central place. And my only question, quite frankly, is which operation, which mode of voting encourages the most opportunity for people to vote. That's what I'd like to see. And maybe I think right now we're at a position where we believe that it's a hybrid, that a hybrid situation works best. And my fallback position would be to rely very heavily on the election officials on the ground, on the local boards of election, who know their counties and have a sense of what is best for the constituents and the people that they serve.
Can I interject? And while I agree with all three comments here on the vote center model, three of us testified in front of a joint House and Senate committee on state government at the state fair a little over a week ago. And the consensus was there, even among, I think, most legislators, is we need to give this a 3 or 4 year run to get, we won't know until we get through the next presidential how this is going to play out, because that's the big one. And we gauge everything off the presidential. We know in 2020, vote centers worked. Now, of course, we had more days. In some areas, vote centers are all the public want. I will agree that there are some counties that may demand precinct level voting. And I think that's why the statute was written with some flexibility. And there may be some needs on both spectrums, but I believe we're all going to see that we're going to meet pretty much in the middle with this hybrid plan for the future. It depends on the areas, the remote areas, the connectivity with the e-poll books. We're not dealing with precinct paper rosters anymore. We're dealing with e-poll books, and they have to communicate with each other if we continue any sort of vote center, whether it be a hybrid or just vote center only. They have to communicate. where they did not have to before with a precinct rosters at each individual precinct. So I think what I'm saying is we're going to have to give this another couple of year cycle before we're really going to know any data on if this helps voter turnout, decreases voter turnout, et cetera. In Anderson County, we get nothing but positive on the vote center model because of we're seeing the moms are soccer moms now and dads. They get off work, they rush their kids to a soccer game. They would tell me they would have not gone back to their precinct and voted because they didn't have time. Their kids are their priority. So on that, in my community, it works. Other communities may be hearing something different.
Well, and you also have I agree with all of that, Jason, and you also have the issue that some people don't know what precinct they belong to. You know, that you end up seeing that happen all the time.
Well, I don't want to cut anyone off, but I know we have a bunch of other action items. I know Member Johnson has to leave at some point soon. If there's a plan we want to vote on right now, let's bring it up. Otherwise, I suggest that we move on to the next item.
I think Member Johnson has a motion on the floor and it's been seconded. Did we finish that one? Did we actually have a vote on it?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So we've already approved that many. 84, right?
Yes.
Right. And we indicated we were okay with Bracken, but I think we probably need to quickly run through that list to see how many others that we might be able to approve. We indicated we were okay with Bracken, but we haven't voted on Bracken is what I remember.
Several of these 26 had no change or an increase of these 26 that we just listed, I think.
Karen, has the State Board of Elections staff determined that those 26 are acceptable?
Richard and myself, I don't know the Taylor.
Would the State Board of Elections staff recommend approval? That's the first question.
Yes. Richard, do you want to speak?
Yeah, I again, we've went through a lot of these and we did it in the primary too. And the fallback was in the primary that the clerks and the county board of elections knew their counties. And we followed that all the way through and we've reviewed these and of course decreases. We pointed those out and they documented those. So yeah, I guess we've pretty much vetted all of these and brought them to you all for your approval. So
well, then, Mr. Secretary, I guess the question would be: does the Secretary of State's office concur with it? We can go ahead and approve all 26 if you do, but if there's some that you don't want to approve, let us know.
Well, there's some I've already identified that I thought we should continue working with the clerks to improve. I also identified some that the governor's asked to meet with me in a few hours to discuss concerns of his. I'd like to show a little respect for his office as well.
Well, tell us
on these.
Why don't you tell us which ones you don't want to approve, and then we'll approve the rest of them, or want to approve yet? Excuse me.
Pardon?
Which ones do you not want to approve yet? We'll skip over those, and we'll approve the rest of them.
Okay. So identified. Breathitt, Knott, Perry, Letcher, Wolf. With the other flood counties, okay. I think Pike's all right.
Okay. Wolf hasn't seen it.
We haven't got one from Wolf, correct?
That's correct.
Oh, okay, all right.
So Perry or Breathitt, Knott, Perry.
And let me know.
Is those the three?
We've looked at Breathitt and Knott, and we think they're going to be okay. But I would like to have a conversation with the governor about it.
And Perry was the third, the other one.
Perry.
Okay.
Breathitt and Letcher. I think Letcher is the one that, at least to us, looked the most concerning, and that's probably going to be our focal point today.
Well, I will say that Letcher in the primary had all precincts open. They're not able to do that this time.
Understood.
And so they really have struggled, right, Richard? Letcher. to them over probably a couple of weeks.
Letcher had 13 vote centers in the primary and they're going down to 11
So,
because of the loss of location.
right, they struggled, but 11 is a pretty good coverage of with their map. And I'm not sure if the governor's has the map of where those locations are, and we're happy to provide those. I think it makes a big difference when you look at the maps of the counties and where they have marked where their vote centers will be. And I really think that makes a difference rather than say not has 12. You know, it's where those 12 are located. And the particular clerk in Knott County was just happy that her locations were going to be ready.
Right.
Perry, you know, their schools, they lost 2 schools, so they struggled to, they were totally damaged and not repairable before the election. So I know they struggle. We spoke to them several times. Breathitt, I know Becky, they've struggled, but she's opening all the same locations. The schools are going to be ready. It's
Are they the
what
same
she's-
schools or different schools?
I think they're the same schools that they're vote centers, right, Richard?
I believe that's correct.
I believe Breathitt, they found, and some of these, and I apologize that some of them came late, but, you know, the counties were struggling to see if the schools were going to be ready by November.
Right.
Particularly in Knott, Perry, and Breathitt. But they were struggling, and Letcher, I think it was also one that was struggling. And we're just trying to work with them.
Mhm.
And as Richard said, we feel they know their counties. They're doing the best they can, trying to get through the flood disaster plus hold an election coming up.
Mr. Secretary, in the interest of time, can you pick which counties you want to pull out of those 26 and can we approve the others?
So Carroll, and again, Carroll's going to add a location from 1 to 2, but we haven't got it yet, so we can't approve it. So I think we need to wait till we get it, but I think that's going to work out just fine. Hardin, Oldham, Woodford, and then Breathitt, Knott, Perry. We haven't got Wolf, so I shouldn't count Wolf.
Right,
And Letcher.
Wolf hasn't said
And Letcher, right? Is that what we had for the flood counties? So for the remaining counties, Richard, could you just very quickly tell us what those remaining counties are, how many locations they're going to have?
Yeah, I can do something like that. So we started with Bracken, and I gave you that information. What the next one's Breathitt. 7 consolidated. Oh, sorry.
That's all right.
Try
Why don't
to
you-
figure out which ones you can pull out and approve.
Bullitt County was one I pulled. Did you approve that one? Did you put it on the 26 list?
yes.
Bullitt is leaving the same thing they did in the primary. They'll have 5 voting centers. I believe Butler was one of them. 2 voting centers, 2 consolidated locations, and 2 standalone precincts. Caldwell, 1 vote center, 3 precincts, standalone precincts, same as the primary. Casey is actually increasing. They had 1 consolidated location in the primary. They're going to 4 vote centers. Edmondson is open. Of course, we've already talked to them. They're open in all precincts. Elliott, all precincts. Fayette went from 96 consolidated locations and 33 precincts to 100 consolidated locations and 32 precincts, so an increase. Floyd is
Say
doing all
Boyd?
Floyd is
Oh,
doing
Floyd,
all
I'm
precincts.
sorry.
Wonder Floyd. Okay, I'm sorry. Garrett, 3 voting centers, 3 precincts, 3 standalone precincts, same as the primary. Green, they went from all precincts to 2 consolidated locations and 6 precincts. So really, there wasn't much change other than they consolidated 2 locations. So it was a decrease. That was one of the decreases.
Richard, may I just say
Yeah.
Crittenden was one that I had circled. Crittenden wasn't one of that you had mentioned in your
Yeah, could you-
pullback, and I don't believe you mentioned Crittenden, Richard.
Yes. hold on, it's just-
I got it right here. They had no change.
Yeah, they were doing the same location. They had to move a location, but just slightly. It was still in the same magisterial district.
Right. But it was still in the same magisterial district. They had an issue with the building.
So they're gonna have one location in every magisterial district, or what's the number of locations?
Let's see, Crittenden has. Sorry, I had to go back.
I think they had one. in each
One vote
magisterial.
center. Let's see, hold on. Sorry, that's left off my list. They are doing, 3, 4, they're having actually a total of 6 locations on election day. One vote center, 2 consolidated locations, and 3 standalone precincts.
Is that updated then?
That was Crittenden. Hickman, they are still doing the same thing, 3 vote centers. Of course, we talked about Hopkins opening all theirs. LaRue, no change, 1 vote center, 1 consolidated location, and 2 standalone precincts. Lee, 4, no changes, 4 consolidated locations, 1 standalone precinct. Madison, they're actually increasing. They're going from 7 vote centers to 8. Martin, 4 vote centers, staying the same. McCracken is staying the same. They have 1 vote center and 17 consolidated locations. Mercer's all precincts. Owsley is staying the same, 1 vote center. Powell,
You're getting awful close to 26, Richard.
I know.
I feel like some of these we may have already approved.
Yeah, I'm just trying to not go over the rest of them. Just a second.
Well, what we need to do is segregate out the 26 and find out which ones of those for sure that the secretary wants to pull out, and then approve the rest.
Yeah. It seems like we've gone through almost all of them.
Okay, so I would be willing to put a motion forward to, if we can pull the list out of no changes or increases, can we start there? Like, can we get the list? Just somebody get a piece of a pencil. I'm driving, or I do it. But out of the 26, which ones stayed the same that are not on the secretary's list or increased? Can we get a list of those? Just somebody write them down and then say them all consecutively together. These are the ones that did not change or increase.
Or the ones that the secretary's not pulling out. I think I would make a motion that I'm willing to approve those on the basis that the Board of Election staff believes that they're sufficient. And the secretary has looked at them and has decided not to pull them out.
Richard, quickly. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Is there any particular ones, Mr. Secretary, that you have issues with that you may want a second look at them? That might be the easier.
I think it's bare minimum for us just to announce what the counties are and how many locations they've got, so everyone can have an informed vote. It'll just take a minute.
Okay, I'm almost down to the whole list. I mean, there isn't very many more that were added to your list. Pulaski County, they increased a vote center. So They went from 7 to 8.
Now, Richard, excuse me for a second. How do we know that some of these aren't the ones that we already
That's
okayed in
the ones the secretary pulled out were the ones that were on the Saturday list. So I have those dates out beside here. So that's what I'm going down through, except for the ones that are in Eastern Kentucky that are.
And there are 26 in there.
I'm almost at the bottom of the list.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm almost done. Shelby County, they are staying the same, 15 consolidated locations, 11 precincts. Simpson County staying the same, 7 consolidated locations, 20 precincts. Union County, staying the same, 7 vote centers. Wayne County was the one, I don't know, we went from, they are a decrease technically because they went from all precincts down to 5 vote centers and 1 standalone precinct again in their magisterial districts. And then that was the last one added on Saturday.
So let's do this. I want to make a short comment and then I want to take a vote or hold a vote on Member Chandler's motion. I think it was Member Johnson said this earlier, where we do see some reductions taking place, tends to be more on the early voting side than on the election day side. And I think that we'll be okay on that because the usage of early voting in the May primary was candidly not what I had hoped for. I do think that over time, if we maintain this model, if the legislature maintains the vote centers as an option, we're going to have a better presence before election day because other states, including those in our region or neighboring states, when they first enacted early voting, it took a few cycles to catch on, but then it really caught on big. We're going to have better and more locations for early voting in the future, but I do think that the ones that have been produced to us for this November will be sufficient. So with that, we have a motion on the table from Member Chandler. Is there a second?
So once more, I'll second it. Once more, can you identify the ones that you're withholding until either the East Kentucky counties or Carroll County or whatever? How many of those, if you will, so we'll know what we're withholding?
Give me just 1 second. Let me write this down.
Okay.
There are two, as I understand it, we're going to approve all counties with the exception of the ones that the secretary is withholding and the 10 who have not submitted plans yet.
I'll read them to you. So we've not got a plan from Wolf yet, but the other flood counties, we've got a plan that I'm discussing today with the governor of Breathitt, Knott, Letcher, and Perry. There are 2 other counties impacted by the floods, Floyd and McGoffin, but they opened all their precincts. They're confident they can keep those open. So obviously there's no reason to hold on those. The others are Carroll, Hardin, Oldham, and Woodford. I do think that Carroll will be in better shape. Maybe they all will, but Carroll is submitting their plan imminently to add a second location. So that one should be easy. And we'll do our best with the other ones. I just have concerns about the sizes of the population versus the number of locations, but we're almost there. That would leave us. So we're waiting on 10 plus 4 plus 4. So that's
18.
102 that we're approving today with 18 left by my count.
That's excellent. That's information we needed. That's good.
Okay. Okay, so we have a motion and we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed? None opposed. Okay, thank you all. I know that was a lot of work, but I think we have a good outcome on that. So next on the agenda is moving into the executive session under KRS 61.810 1C to discuss pending litigation, and under KRS 61.810 1M to discuss a security matter. We have a motion.
So moved.
A second.
Second.
All in favor? The aye.
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 Okay. I'll see y'all in just a second.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jason.
For litigation, probably.